gaming industry's first real look at what could be the next major iteration of the first-person shooter genre is here. Bodycam is, as it says in the name of the game, a bodycam style shooter focusing on immersion and feeling as though you are witnessing a live feed footage of real events occurring, but still within the context of a video game. There are a lot of interesting elements to play within Bodycam that makes it feel so unique when compared to other more traditional shooters. With several modes of play, a variety of weapons at your disposal, and a strong emphasis on immersion, tactical play, and intensity, Bodycam is the gaming industry's first real glimpse into the potential that these sub-genres of shooters have to offer. Bodycam released on June 7th of 2024 in early access. At its core, the entire reason to play this game revolves around the unique style of camera that accurately portrays gameplay that looks as though it came from an officer's or special forces bodycam. There isn't a ton of wiggle room in regards to how the camera works and the movement of said camera, but that's kind of the point. It's supposed to look like something you could see on the news, but you're in control the whole time. This point is reinforced by the fact that all the characters' faces are blurred out. There are no facial details in the game unless you are using a skin or accessory that conveys facial features. This is a rather odd choice. The game feels almost more underground because of it, almost as if you shouldn't be playing it, but it kind of works in the context of this game where you are using a bodycam as your primary camera. It's something I personally have never seen a shooter attempt before. This style is so interesting visually to look at, and because the game is using Unreal Engine 5, the visuals and graphics are seriously top-notch. Granted, because of the engine, if you are interested in the game, you will need an above-average computer to run the game at higher graphical levels and still maintain decent frame rates. It's rather demanding. The game can chug and have frame drops from time to time. You'll notice my frame rate hovers anywhere from the low 40s up to 60 frames per second. But otherwise, the game is definitely quite the looker visually. It's heavy and deliberate, intentional, but because of that, it can also kind of feel clunky and out of place. If you're used to modern shooters where movement is freeing and fluid, this is going to be quite jarring. Your base movement speed is extremely low, and sprinting does help, but it still doesn't feel like you're moving that quickly. Again, in part because of how the camera works, but movement in general needs to be done very cautiously. This is supposed to be more of a tactical milsim using a bodycam style camera, something more akin to using a VR helmet. There is pretty much no HUD in this game. It's just you, your weapon, and maybe the outline of your teammates if you're playing a mode that supports that. The minimalist design again helps to reinforce the idea of a bodycam, without taking away from the normal conventions of a shooter we've kind of grown accustomed to. Your gun is almost always at the ready, aiming forward ahead of you. Most weapons either also have a laser, flashlight, or both that you can toggle on and off as you see fit, which you will be doing a lot because this game definitely rewards accurate and successful point firing for times when the milliseconds to aim down your weapon would get you killed. It can also be extremely dark visually, requiring your own light source at times, adding to that tension factor. And because your weapon is almost always pointing forward, this is a viable strategy for many engagements at close range. There are a solid number of weapons on offer in this game. Pistols, SMGs, shotguns, and rifles with different attachments to take advantage of. The recoil for some of them feels a little bit dramatic and can sometimes be a deterrent of enjoying the moment-to-moment gameplay, but otherwise they only seek to add to the intensity the game is going after. The audio in Bodycam is also stellar, almost to a fault. When you first boot up the game, I highly recommend lowering the weapon volume down by at least half, because at full volume, this game is extremely loud, to the point where it will actually hurt your ears from the noise. But the localization, ambient sounds, footsteps, it all culminates in an experience that will suck you in if you let it. There are a number of ways to engage with Bodycam. You can simply hit the quick search button and the game will throw you into whatever lobby or in-progress game makes the most sense. A simple and hassle-free way to jump headfirst and get some rounds in if you're limited on time. Another way is to use the server browser option, which gives you a little more control over what kind of matches you would like to look for. From specific maps, modes, ping limits, you'll have a solid amount of choices in terms of what you would like to play. You have Body Bomb, which is this game's take of Search and Destroy, Team Deathmatch, a classic, Deathmatch, which is your free-for-all, and the newest mode of play that was recently added, and the primary reason for this video, the Zombies mode. We'll get to that in a minute, because the Zombies mode is wow. But the other modes are fairly standard across a handful of interesting maps that make sense in the context of a Bodycam style game. You can also host your own games should you wish, either to play with your friends or just to have some random players join as well. Most of the time I'm just hitting quick match and just run around to fight some other players for a little while. This is probably one of my biggest criticisms of the game in its current state. There's just not a whole lot to do. A few modes, the shooting range, and not much else. Maybe this is just me, but Bodycam needs a single player mode or some kind of a co-op mode that has some kind of narrative attached to it, or even a Spec Ops kind of mode where you play across a variety of levels and completing objectives. They could be, rescuing hostages or going into heavily fortified buildings and limiting all the threats. Something similar to how Ready or Not handles its content. That style of gameplay with the Bodycam on top of it would be absolutely incredible. There is a roadmap with some planned modes and maps on the horizon, so we'll just have to wait and see what the new stuff entails. Another concern is the cash shop for cosmetics. They're mainly weapon and character skins, but for a $33 early access game, for the time being, I just wouldn't engage with this at all. Again, you can't even see the characters' faces, so it feels even less enticing to buy stuff from that. But, of course, you do with your money as you see fit. Now for the main reason I purchased this game and the impetus for this entire video. Bodycam recently, for Halloween, released a brand new Zombies mode, and it is the best way to play this game, bar none. It takes all the atmosphere elements, visual, audio, tension, stress, and packs it into a map that is extremely reminiscent of the second Zombies map ever made for Call of Duty, Verrückt, an abandoned asylum where you need to keep the lights on by using generators scattered throughout the location, which also opens up new areas. They have these boxes that can be opened for new weapons and equipment, and the goal is to simply survive as long as you can. What makes this mode so stressful is that if you get hit even just once by a zombie, you die, and if you're playing with others, you will respawn if they survive that round. The first time you experience this, it is genuinely terrifying. The noises, the difficulty in spotting zombies because even when the lights are on, it's extremely dark, and just knowing it's a one-hit kill makes being swarmed and being overwhelmed the worst case scenario. Unless you survive long enough to where the zombies begin to sprint at you, because you'll lose years on your life for that too. This mode was a fantastic addition to the game. We need more stuff like this, where the immersion is leaned into. Whether it's solo or co-op, more options to take advantage of the unusual camera and not so much on the PvP angle will genuinely do wonders for this game in the long run. Bodycam is the first real time we're seeing developers try their hand at using Bodycam style cameras in first-person shooters, and this game is a solid first step in that subgenre. It's not perfect, the lack of content, somewhat repetitive multiplayer, and the cash shot being added into an early access game kind of leaves a sour taste. It definitely from an outsider's perspective looks like an interesting demo that may not be worth the price it's asking. But with time, my hope is that there are enough improvements and additions to the game that flush it out and make it feel more like a complete package. This is an incredibly interesting game, taking advantage of a brand new engine, using a camera perspective that is just starting to get its legs. I hope more games in the future give it a try, and I also hope if you like what you see but you're unsure on how much you might play the game, to at the very least wishlist it and maybe wait for a sale. It's an experience any enjoyer of FPS games should absolutely try. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts on Bodycam if you've played it or if you haven't, and be sure to subscribe for more videos about games trying to break the mold and trying something both bold and interesting at the same time. I hope to see you in future ones.